My name is Nicolas Rousseau. I'm product manager, and I'm managing FlexNet Manager and ITAM. I'm one of the product managers. And today we will spend 1 hour together on the ambitious topic, which is, where is ITAM going with Flexera, and what are the big trends for IT asset management, and where is Flexera going functionally and technically with the FlexNet Manager on-premise product and the Flexera One ITAM cloud version platform. So let's move on, and sorry for the first little issue. Like every time, we'll be going through the agenda. Like usual, we will have a quick check on the last session's pointers, and I will answer to questions. There was no question, so it will be fast. Then we will go through news quickly about the SAM Best Practice Hub that I'm often referencing to, and the coming, or the just released 2022 R1.6 release, and the coming FlexNet Manager R2 release, which will come on the 12th of December. And then we will work and we'll go through the main topic of this session, which is the ITAM vision. The world is changing, Flexera ITAM is changing too, and I will go through the strategic and tactical directions we are taking, and I will go through the recently and coming features in that context of our strategic and tactical approach. I will finish with one section, which is, how Flexera One, ITAM, and FlexNet Manager on-premise, are correlated and are evolving. To give you a picture, which is a mix of, our cloud strategy, but also technically how things work today, and give you a little bit of perspective. So the last session was on the managing ITAM operations. This is about the project phase and the run phase. I went through the high-level processes. I gave the landscape on what is IT asset management, what is FlexNet Manager, or what is Flexera One ITAM, with a little bit of overview on the architecture. And you will find in this link everything, including some links, because there was a number of documentations which were referenced, some links, and the documentation that the PowerPoint I used, as well as the 1 hour recording. So just as I'm showing every time, you have this events and webinar section in the community, where you have each of the planned and sessions and recording announcements. So you can subscribe to this section if you want to get every month and more often, because there are other products which are also delivering webinars. You can subscribe to this Community Hub event and webinar section to get these notifications. Let's move back to the presentation, to the PowerPoint. And, there was no answer to questions. Some people, when I asked me to add them to the ITAM newsletter. The ITAM newsletter is a document that you receive once a month, which aggregates from customer success. This is a document created and sent by customer success, which is going through the news, some best practice pointers and so on. So it resonates sometimes with these sessions, of course. And feel free to ask by question right now if you want to be added to the list of people who receive this SAM best practice, SAM newsletter, this ITAM newsletter. And I will be glad to add you to the list. Also be aware that if you are asking questions today, they will be answered the next time. 1 hour is quite short. The content is quite large. So I will just like today answer the questions of the last session in the next session. There was no other question on this topic, which was mainly talking about process, how to use the tool, and useful documentations. But I would say this is a very useful resource for people who are starting with IT asset management or with Flexera One ITAM, or the people who eventually are using it but would like to be sure and get a bigger picture. And this is what this session was on. Let's move on. The news now. ITAM 2022 R1.6 just got released. So it was recently released. And just here. And this version, includes a number of things. And as usual, I show you a little bit. If you want to know what's happening with Flexera, you go to docs.flexera.com. You pick up Flexera One. Be careful, there is no more FlexNet Manager Cloud now points to Flexera One. And once you're here, you see this IT Asset Management feature by release. Knowing that the Flexera One feature by release is aggregating more data about SaaS Manager, CCO, but the focus on the specific part, which is IT Asset Management, that we're addressing right now is here. And what you see that in September, so very recently, very recently, we got two features released. One was not communicated so much. It's the extension of the Oracle Glass verification. FlexNet and Flexera One ITAM is one of the tools which collects the database information. So this is the Glass Oracle database verification process through the LMS scripts, what we call the LMS script. The middleware data has been added to this data collection back in 2021, and more recently, last week, we have added a number of data points which are necessary to be verified for Java. This is a new program by Oracle, and basically we can collect on the computers, and these are things we have been addressing since March 2022, the ability to collect in a very detailed way the Java data, understand where Java is deployed, understand if Java is commercial or or public, and finally all this data is collected and stored in this Oracle Glass zip file, which adds more information and more details to what you are collecting on Java. Another small but actually quite relevant change, there's been a lot of noise in the community. The agent is now extended without a need to migrate or to upgrade the agent. The inventory settings of XML, which is providing the inventory policy to the agent, has been extended to include some PowerShell data collection that goes through the registry entries that Acrobat leaves user per user. That was one of the challenges. And Acrobat, basically, the add remove program will show Acrobat DC, even if it's Acrobat Reader. But by catching these new types of evidence that we construct as installer evidence, the agent is able to collect the edition of Acrobat. So that there have been many stories over the years with Acrobat. Software ID tags a long time ago, software, that there were multiple ways the installations were tagged. And now the only usable, since 2021, the only usable flag that we can catch is this registry entry, which is called the entitlement level, which is actually related to the users. And basically, if a user connects to the Acrobat, to the Adobe portal, and if a user has entitlement to use, let's say, Acrobat Professional, it will get the flag on the registry entries. So we will know from this flag which is the activity version by computer. Okay, so that was these were the two big things. And I will not spend too much time, but there is always, this SAM Best Practice Hub. You will be able to click on the link, which is aggregating a lot of data, and which keeps being expanded with the links to all the sessions that have been delivered so far. So, very, very quickly, if you go to this document, you will see that it provides all the links to the SAM best practice webinars. The October one will be added soon, and it gives a perspective, just like I will do today. That's why I will be so fast. A perspective on, what we are developing regarding data transparency and bringing more value to the user through the 3 hubs, which are going to be published. The first one being published very soon, November. It will be in the next 2022 R2 version on premise. And you will see there is a SAM operations hub. I will describe it a bit. A SAM data transparency hub, and finally a SAM optimization hub, which is the one that will come very, very soon. So the idea is to move the user experience, to change the user experience to be basically list and detail focused, report focused, which means that you know exactly what you're looking for in the UI, into a more process-driven UI where people access, depending on their need, a hub that will link them to additional information. But actually, and in this document, you get more links to more resources. So this is a little bit large, but it's worth having a look to it. You will probably find a lot of things that could be useful to your day-to-day activities, and that allow you to, for instance, implement, if you're on-premise, a lot of the report that will come with these hubs, for instance. Okay, so let's move on. Let's start this topic about the ITAM vision. And the agenda is quite simple. Where does the world go? Which is a big topic, and you will see a little abstract of these directions. Where does Flexera go with ITAM? I will describe it a bit the strategic and tactical directions. I will go through the features overview, what has been released. Very often, when I deliver roadmap presentations, I'm surprised to see that people want to know about the future, but when I show them what they have today and what they could use today, that's also interesting. So I will insist a little bit on that. And we will go through some feature details that illustrate a little bit what we're doing and what we're doing. And we will finish with this topic around Flexera One, ITAM, and FlexNet Manager. So you will probably not see incredibly new things in these first slides, but when we have some surveys, the State of the Cloud survey, or there are several surveys that Flexera or Revenera are performing. And what these surveys tell us, and what the analysts tell us, for instance, is that we are going through a more real-time world, which is consumption-based. Funnily, a little bit like the mainframe world, where it was all based on MIPS and transactions. We are more and more going to this real-time consumption model, which is adding some complexity to understanding and anticipating the cost. Second thing is, the spend on the cloud infrastructure is growing very fast, is now exceeding the one on the data centers, knowing that the on-premise spending keeps going up, but slowly, while the cloud spending is really accelerating. Third thing that we're seeing as a trend, as a big trend, is that the digital platform architectures are emerging, embedding artificial intelligence, DevOps, FinOps, and SecOps processes. So basically, the management and the analysis layer of the cloud infrastructure is growing. Complexity is growing. We will see that in the next slide. And there is a need for understanding the cost, the trends, optimizing, and this is where these FinOps and additional disciplines are expanding a lot right now to take control on this ever-changing and augmenting spending cloud cloud architecture world. And finally, a last trend we're seeing that digital procurement is leveraging automation and pay as you go, but it's actually changing the way we interact with our providers. So these are big trends. This is probably nothing very new to you. This has been trends for some years, but we are seeing a real acceleration. There was a planned change, and now we're in the middle of this cloudification and the acceleration of these trends. The return on investment is a growing problem for companies. So, is it worth investing what we invest? Are we getting return on investment? And these topics have always been very high, but they are even higher now that the architectures are evolving very quickly and the technologies as well. So there are always, people, 74% of people we surveyed in the Ravenera state of the software optimization last year were talking about these challenges in optimizing the software use. Same with 82% of respondents admitted that was a high challenge to understand the SaaS environments, the platform as a service environment, the cloud and containers. So these new ways of delivering IT services are bringing, as usual, more flexibility, but also more complexity and volatility, which is why we need solutions to track a better way and understand what's happening. And finally, navigating the complexity of hybrid estate. Again, this is a very classical thing that people have a hard time having the hybrid world, which is a mix of on-premise SaaS applications under control. And this is a challenge to be proactive in the negotiations and not reactive. And again, the better prepared you are, the more proactive you can be in a negotiation, in a contract renewal. And to get all of this, you need visibility and support from the right level of tooling. And finally, the last, big trend slide I wanted to share today is about the complexity of the offering. We have very active products which Google, Amazon, Azure have a large number of services offering, very flexible, adapted to your needs. But it turns into a very complex, management of the SKUs. 300,000 plus SKUs for AWS. You can imagine the complexity to manage, and in the end, the complexity mixed with the ease of access. It's very easy to instantiate a new AWS instance. Leads to a self-estimated spend, wasted spend of 30% of the total spend. So, or 30% of people actually, so estimate that there are, wasted spend. So in that context, where does Flexera go? And I will keep a little focus on IT asset management, on software asset management. But before I'm focusing on what we do as a product team on IT asset management and FlexNet Manager, I just wanted to reposition in the Flexera One Platform. Today in this call, we have a mix of people who are using FlexNet Manager on-premise. This is the way FlexNet Manager has been massively used. Interestingly, more in Europe than in the US. More users were using the cloud version of FlexNet Manager. And we have now a mix of customers which are on-premise or in the cloud. And customers in the cloud are actually using the Flexera One Platform, which is including a number of, I would say, verticals or functional domains. One being IT visibility, which is all about normalizing the data with an angle which is what called configuration management, understanding the exact versions, understanding the what has been deployed, what are the end of support dates for these deployed applications, normalizing the software but also the hardware. This is everything that and the vulnerability eventually. This is what IT visibility does. IT asset management is, the core of this whole, which is the ability to manage inventory data, which is normalized, but I would say which is normalized a less detailed way than IT visibility, and with a different focus. The focus of IT asset management is to understand on-premise, but also for SaaS applications, to understand what has been purchased. So all this procurement management and contract management, what has been deployed, inventory management, which includes on-premise inventory, but more and more SaaS application inventory, which is a complex topic we are addressing very well with the SaaS Manager part, and being able to manage the compliance, the optimization, and understanding the hybrid world, which is mixing, for instance, for Microsoft 365, the on-prem installations of the Visio clients, for instance, with the Visio Online usage that you may have in the context of a Visio Plan 1 program or subscription, and being able to report all of this and show the consumption and optimizations. And the third pillar we were having, which is evolving very fast, is the cloud optimization pillar that contains two branches. One is being able to migrate from on-premise to cloud. This is a product that we have, from an acquisition which is called Risk Software, and we have the ability to understand, the target architecture, the initial architecture, the target architecture, and evaluate the costs and the opportunity for moving some business services to the cloud. So there is also the notion of business service, which includes the application and resource mapping to deliver any service, and the extension on understanding the total cost of ownership. And the second part of cloud optimization is, once you have these services transferred and migrated to the cloud using cloud resources, and we have a way to monitor, this is called Optima, to monitor the subscribed plans, to import this huge quantity of data, and keep analyzing the plans with the actual usage, and automate some tasks and activities, such as switching off some instances that have not been used. So the cloud optimization consists in automating the management of the cloud services, cloud instances, but also other services, based on usage and cost data that we have. So this big picture, I wanted to take a step back before deep diving into ITAM. This big picture shows that these domains are not decorrelated. There is a strong correlation between, for instance, managing license compliance and costs, which includes understanding the license consumption on Azure cloud instances, with managing these cloud instances, which are eventually not used, and even more, participate to the additional cost of your IT asset management, or maybe understand, what is your bring your own license or pay as you go flat that we get from the cloud architecture, to understand the licensing impact of using Windows Server, for instance, on an Azure or AWS instance. As well, there is a very close relationship between ITAM and configuration management and IT visibility. Without normalization, you can't do any IT asset management and software asset management. However, if you want to zoom strongly on what's happening in your IT estate and understand the, let's say, vulnerability risks or the end of support information, you need to actually drill down from this, let's say, Oracle database 19C instance that you see in IT asset management in Flexera One ITAM, and you can zoom into the 19.2.3 version of the release of the Oracle database that eventually has an end of support of probably in a long time of let's say 2026, and you will understand, what are the I would say application management policies and governance that you need to have, which goes actually beyond what software asset management does. So in the end, I will focus a lot on what we do in terms of managing contract purchase, inventory, and software compliance and optimization. But you will see that expanding the view on the Flexera One Platform, you understand the value of expanding to more than IT asset management. I will be fast on this one, but Flexera One has some, Flexera has some differentiators, ability to manage and normalize with the Definity technology resource data. This is all the Technopedia abilities to normalize data, hardware, software. We have consumption intelligence, which allows us to understand what has been deployed and convert this data into the ability to compute license consumption, automated portfolio management. This relates to this cloud automation, which is not actually limited to cloud. There is something called in Flexera One called the policy engine, which allows to create any rule based on any REST API output and take any action, scripted action. So this is this automated portfolio governance that we have this part, and which is also a differentiator. And finally, a Flexera with a mix of SaaS and on-premise inventory is able to manage the complex situations that we have with Microsoft 365 or Adobe Creative Cloud. On one side, you have the subscribed plans that could be Creative Cloud Complete, single app, or the standalone products. So this part comes from the portal, and the data needs to be refreshed regularly. On the other side, these subscribed plans, which are really SaaS information, allow you to deploy and install locally some applications which can be monitored with the classical, I would say, on-premise agents from Flexera or by SCCM. So managing the hybrid world is the ability of mixing data, which is from diverse sources, and computing the best way, consumption and optimization. I'm moving on a little bit, and with all of this, wanted to give you the big, strategic and tactical directions. It's always hard to, just give some bullets on where we put focus, because we need to put focus on the many directions. But first, one thing and I would say this one, talking about FlexNet Manager and ITAM, this one is, I would say, a little bit a next step. Include more cloud intelligence. Today, FlexNet and Flexera One ITAM are able to compute license consumption to take into account, any cloud-specific rule. If you use Oracle database, you will not try to look for the host because there is no host that but you will need to count the threads in terms of the consumption and no longer the cores. There are many rules. IBM has a specific PVU factors on the cloud instances. So all these rules are actually onboarded. But a next step we could do and we will do in the future is the ability, for instance, to do some what-if analysis. We have today in FlexNet Manager and Flexera One ITAM a simulation engine that honestly has not been used a lot from my 9 years experience with Flexera. This simulation engine is able to you can change an architecture, so add some cores to a host. You can move or create an application on a virtual machine. And this simulation engine will give you the licensing impact. So using this technology that we have had for a long time, but which is maybe not always used heavily, to do a typical, what-if analysis on what would be the cost impact if I'm moving these 50 VMs from my on-prem, estate, which I know well. I know already the consumption. This is what FlexNet does. What if I was moving the VMs as Azure instances? We could provide you a quick analysis on the cost difference. So that's where we can go a bit away. Be on top with IBM. This is, this is quite high in the list, but you may be aware, Flexera and IBM have signed an agreement which allows Flexera One ITAM to replace ILMT with no specific amendment on the contracts. It's automated to replace ILMT with Flexera One ITAM, because Flexera One ITAM is able to compute the peaks over 90 days of the PVU consumption, is able to track every 30 minutes any change that happened in the infrastructure, and this is, sort of an officialization that Flexera is technically able to do the job of computing the PVU consumption. A second thing that Flexera has is that using the libraries, that recognition library or bundle library that IBM provides, we can be on top on the data recognition and license consumption because we have these libraries available. Another topic which is specific to IBM, where we have invested recently, is the ability to collect on the Kubernetes architecture containers the license consumption data that the IBM license service is computing. So we are really staying on top, I would say, ahead of any other company in the world on managing the IBM complexity, and you will see later integrating, for instance, with Kubernetes. So to be on top, second thing or third thing is be the best for SaaS. I will show you. We have invested a lot in the last 2 years in making SaaS Manager more exhaustive in its way of collecting data, managing the reporting on this information, and the optimization as well. The third big trend is having ITAM integrated in the Flexera One Platform. You will see that that's part of the last section, but ITAM is going more and more to transversely interact with cloud management, with IT visibility, through reporting, through cross-platform navigation, because more and more the objects are going to be shared between between IT visibility, for instance, and ITAM. So this integration, which today is visible through the fact that when you navigate in ITAM, you have a unique view in Flexera One. So when you navigate with Flexera One, you get a unique view across, I would say, domains. You can access to the classical IT asset management. You can access to the SaaS portion. You have this integrated navigation, and more and more we're actually integrating the reporting. For instance, the technology spend. So there are things which are still, on the workspace, Microsoft Workspace. These, reporting are doing cross-domain reporting. What am I spent on Microsoft? We can mix the license spend with the cloud, with the cloud spend for the Azure instances and services, and more and more, this is more than just the common navigation. This will be an integrated reporting and automation. Moving back to the presentation. Okay, so this is a big part, and I would say this one has quite some work up front. So we are doing some invisible work to start with, and the navigation and the reporting, which has started with this Microsoft Workspace report, which is showing across domains the inventory spend and so on. This these features will accelerate once the backends will be synchronized, which is exactly what we are doing now. The third item, fourth item actually, is a quite new one, I would say, which is changing the user experience from list details reports. So you know where to navigate, you know what report to run, you know where to look for gaps, and this in user experience, which was, I would say, for the experts. If you didn't know by heart, you know, all the screens, all the reports, it was hard to navigate, is evolving with the apparition of 3 hubs, which I will describe a little bit more. So this is a big trend, and I will deep dive on the hubs. And finally, you know, last two directions we're taking is to make SAM more clever through automations. You will see this quarter in Q4 a new feature which is called intelligent license scoping. I will develop it a bit, which will be followed by the intelligent allocations and exemptions, and an integration that we have today with IBM Tokenomic will be extended. So basically, instead of having FlexNet Manager or Flexera One showing you your consumption, or you know, demanding that you have some manual work to allocate the best virtual machines from the best cluster to the, let's say, Windows Server Data Center Edition license. Or instead of having ITAM giving you what is the ideal Oracle architecture based on analysis on where the virtual machines are, which is today released, we are going to sort of move to action. Analysis is the first step, and being able to automate things and decrease the efforts of the SAM operators is all the intent of these 3 features. And finally, we keep extending, you know, the licensing data intelligence through Citrix Cloud, for instance. This is coming. This has started actually with VDIs, just released in Q4. ZOS inventory, you know, being able to collect the IBM ZOS data, which is quite complex. This is also coming in Q4 of this year, Q1 of this year. So in the end, if I present the you know, once you know a little bit our angles of focus, the axis we are using, we are having for developing, we can also present this data in a Maslow Pyramid, I would say. Classically, we will use a quarter-by-quarter view on the roadmap presentation, but here you see a little bit that we work on both foundations, such as, you know, getting the best of breed inventory. This is so I will not be able to go through everything, but you will see that many things are actually, you know, already delivered. So SaaS Manager has extended a lot between Q1 and Q3. The ability to collect Microsoft, Google, ServiceNow cloud data, and to allow license differentiation through these additional attributes and information that is collected. It's not just about collecting, you know, a list of accounts on an application, but understand more, you know, the accounts and the usage, which allows them to compute a consumption, which is not always so simple, and an optimization. On the foundations, again, you know, we have extended a lot on the container side. It's more on 2020 and 2021, but the Flexera agent is now able to collect Docker and Kubernetes container data. It's even able to collect, you know, the IBM Kubernetes license consumption data, which is, I would say, a little bit higher in the Maslow Pyramid. This is about, you know, transforming this raw data on containers into license consumption data. And I did not mention, but having container information used for license consumption, I delivered a topic in August on containers, a session in August on containers. Today, we collect the inventory, but we don't, except for IBM, where we have this licensing server data available. We don't compute consumption because you know, vendors have not been so clear so far on how to calculate on these containers that keep being up and off. So how to compute the license consumption. So you see, we are expanding. We are collecting more data for Java. This is part of the Java verification on Unix. We're able to collect where the Java instances are installed, which is so important to understand the fact we need to license or not, if that's an embedded license, an embedded instance. PowerPC has been delivered in Q2. Z-Linux is coming soon. So you see, we have expanded a lot the foundations. And I would say, talking about reporting, not just about data collection, which we're making better. Intune will come in 2023. This is not yet a tool that we support out of the box, but it has some challenges on the data, which has limited information, I would say, no published information, for instance. So we collect more data. We are going to expand on explaining better this data. This is what we call the data transparency and reliability through a set of reports. Some of them have been released already. The application transparency report has been released in March this year. It allows to understand, the raw evidence and the recognition to the application. It was initially released for Java, but it works for any application. And understanding, what raw evidences across servers allow to recognize an application is a big step forward in understanding the big picture, while you had to go one by one on the server, on the computer details to understand that. And then, we have these two hubs, which will come a little bit later. We start with the SAM optimization hub, but we'll have two hubs that will provide information on the operations quality. This is all about KPIs, you will see, or the SAM data transparency, which is a very, very vast topic. So we're collecting the data, we're making sense out of the data through the additional reports and hubs which are coming. And once you can trust this data, we are actually providing an advanced value. So this is, for instance, the financial optimization. There's been a big focus in the last 20 months, I would say. Big focus on being able to collect and compute Oracle consumption and optimization reports. All of these released in 2021. The named user subscription and optimization report has been released in June recently, actually. License, counting the license consumption a better way. Windows Server, SQL Server, Red Hat. These are domains where the license calculation is complex. And for instance, talking about this better visibility and optimization view, SaaS Manager has released the Salesforce cockpit in Q2 of this year and has been collecting more SaaS usage data for ServiceNow. So it collects now the user usage, or Microsoft 365, the data has been extended. There was already a lot of usage collected that allowed to understand the real usage of these services. It has been extended in Q3, so just more recently this year. So you see, and the SAM Optimization Hub will articulate all these reports that have been released. It will articulate all these reports, and I'm going to show you a little bit more. Again, once you have reliable data, you can do better things, such as extending integration with third-party tools, because you can trust the data. And we have released the REST APIs. This is specific for cloud customers. Now, any web report can be called through a REST API. It has been the case since June. This is called the report execute REST API. It is paginated. It supports, the outputs is in JSON format. So this is, the best of breed way of capturing the data if you're a cloud customer. This is, I would say, high-level value to integrate with the enterprise processes, just like, App Broker is collecting data from ITAM through REST API again, to have a better data for reclamation. So it's using the last use date of the applications and can automatically generate some uninstallation requests and actually trigger the uninstallations based on the applications that have been deployed, which are not used. And finally, the complex licensing situation. I talked about IBM, Kubernetes, automated exemption of Java. I already also talked about that. Intelligent license restriction. I'm going to show that in the details. And Adobe single sign-on, which is, single app, which is the ability of managing correctly this use case, which is a little bit complex. This is planned for Q4. FSM, SaaS Manager, will be able to collect the Adobe plans, but will be able to split when it comes to single app, to be able to show one plan per, it's called application profile or product profile, so that you can know which standalone product is actually used. So I'm going to show some screenshots, but I will not spend too much time. This is what you can see in the Salesforce, Salesforce cockpit, which brings more data on usage, which brings more, activity status. So you have the list of your users by status. You have the links to the entities, the organizations. You can roll up all the Salesforce data up to current organization and don't need to go one by one. This has been implemented back in 2021. So you get good, visibility, usage information, and through a better data collection, I would say, and an enhanced UI through this look. Same for Microsoft, more data is collected to manage a better way, S3, for instance. Here, this is, covering a number of vendors. There is a better data collection to reflect the licensing metrics for cloud, which are not always rated by number of accounts. DocuSign could be the number of the signed documents, but you have multiple editions of DocuSign. So Tableau is about the users, but you have actually multiple profiles for the users. You can be a viewer, a creator, an explorer. And SaaS Manager has extended and is now, was already, but is more and more collecting the right data to address the more complex topics on managing license consumption and analysis and optimization for these cloud these SaaS applications. Same trend, I would say. This is for Q4. This is coming later this year. The ingestion of a large number of SaaS vendors will include more and more usage, which will allow to understand, not only the accounts, but the activity, and it opens to the SaaS application optimization. Okay, so this one is duplicated. Sorry for that. And now I'm focusing on some of the big features that have been released. If you go to the SAM optimization, the SAM best practice hub that I referenced to it a bit earlier, you will see, each of the released reports, optimization reports, has been described in details. So this is a Windows Server optimization report that allows to catch, the 90-day peaks of VMs. And these are millions of savings if you were using the classical approach, which is covering all ESX server in Data Center Edition. So this is a big progress in counting a better way. The same has been done for Red Hat by evaluating at the cluster level the density of VMs. This is a new way of computing, which is actually way more accurate than just taking Data Center node edition for the ESX servers, which is what a lot of customers do. And you will see, that this is one of the 11 reports that got released in the last year about optimization. Exclusion of Java, I will not spend too much time, but you will see there is a full session, a full best practice webinar session on that. We can now track the precise deployments of Java through the application transparency report that works with any other application, by the way. We can exclude the files by path so basically if an evidence was on the path, the recognition will be triggered of Java, eventually a commercial version, but an exemption reason will be automatically created if all of the installations were belonging to exempted path. This is a new feature that came in March. That will be that is actually in 2022 R1. Yeah, please have a look. This could save you some money with Oracle Java. End-user license optimization. This is a typical hybrid use case where you can, in ITAM, in a report, user per user, understand what are the existing subscribed plans. So here, I'm on Creative Cloud Complete and all apps. And you can understand user per user, what are the installed applications which are consuming the license, which are the used applications. It will mix, for Microsoft 365, the online and the on-prem installations and usage. And the report computes, so shows the consumption, what is the consumption and what is the cost. This is taking that from the license, but also computes an optimal, consumption with recommendations. Don't get the user to standalone. Oh yes, FrameMaker and Acrobat. These are two products which by Adobe standards are cheaper to license with standalone products than taking the full Creative Cloud Complete or Creative All Apps subscription. So you see we have built a number of bricks in optimization, and this hub will actually articulate the, this is planned for Q4, so I would say end of November. This hub will articulate all of the reports. For the number of topics, it will explain the reports that you see here. It will, visualize the aggregated savings with two types of saving. One which is, how much we saved you through clever license consumption, and how much you could save by taking action. And we show the trends. So I will be fast because time is going, but this is a way of understanding, over the time across entities, but the data is also stored by entity in the data warehouse. It's a way for you to understand, what should be done or what has been done if you apply the recommendations of the reports in terms of computing the consumption the best way. This feature will come also this quarter. It's called intelligent license copying. It's a little bit technical, but in ITAM or in FlexNet Manager, you can restrict a license to say, don't try to count anything outside of the scope. And this is extremely useful in many cases, production and production, server desktops for Java, non-prod is for IBM or TIBCO, specific contracts if you're a managed services provider, specific, high or low density clusters. So in the end, it would be, and it will be very practical to be able in a license to define a computer group or a user group, which will be determining the list of items on which the license will be restricted. And this will allow to have some, you will define this computer group like a report with the use of advanced filter if you want. And the license will start with checking what is the scope, which is a mix of entities and eventually operating system and computer group. And based on that, the license will not try to cover anything outside of this group. There are many uses of this feature, which I'm really glad we will release end of this month or November. Second hub that will come later in Q1, but we are going to build one by one the reports which are underlying this SAM operations hub. The SAM operations hub will show you the KPIs on many things, which is where this is a little bit complex. And it will address the two big questions, which are, can I trust my inventory? Very basic thing. And second big question, which is, am I performing well in my SAM operations? Do I have some remaining unlicensed or unprocessed purchases? Are my licenses forgetting about some deployed applications, which could be commercial and a risk? And the hub, same principle, will show the snapshot, will show the trend over the time, which is very interesting. If If your KPIs are getting better, that's a very good thing. And you will be able to get, both the visualization and the explanations. That will be a little bit exhaustive because there are many topics. And again, if you go to the SAM Best Practice Hub, you will see all the content of the SAM Operations Hub. And the last one, which will coming later, will be the SAM Data Transparency Hub. Chargeback reports on who consumes what. Ability to understand for a vendor the full picture. If you run this dashboard on Microsoft, you will see everything filtered on Microsoft, which are your contracts, the coming renewals, the current consumption, the current chargeback view. So we can have a vendor-focused view of the SAM data, which is today a little bit complex to obtain. I'm moving on to the last topic, which is, how does it articulate? I promoted a lot, Flexera One ITAM, saying that this is indeed a big, opportunity to take advantage of more functionality in a unique platform with a single, navigation and more shared objects. So there is no question that having Flexera One and using Flexera One opens to a lot of value. However, what I would like to be clear on is that the engine of ITAM, which we see here, is actually FlexNet Manager. And things will evolve very slowly, and I will explain a little bit more. But today, if you are an ITAM on-premise customer, if you want to move to Flexera One ITAM, the way we do the migration is by taking your database, cleaning up, all this story, which is adding a lot of data, upgrading your database, and restoring the database into the cloud, which means, and into a cloud, mono-tenant database, which means that we are not, our goal is not to punish some customers who are using on-premise because we have a large install base. Our goal is to provide more value in the cloud. We have clearly a cloud strategy. We are now selling ITAM through cloud, only through cloud. And what we are doing today is adding value to Flexera One ITAM. Using the engine of ITAM is still FlexNet Manager. So any change and any announcement I showed for the next years will be in Flexera One ITAM first, because we have a monthly refresh, which is quite an advantage. No need for upgrading the platform. But on-premise customer will twice a year get the incremental additional value because the way you define, you store data in ITAM, the way you store inventory, you define a license, is the same as the way you do it in Flexera One, in FlexNet Manager. That said, some objects are going to gradually be shared and delegated within Flexera One. For instance, IT visibility uses microservices and MongoDB databases and GraphQL to normalize the data. And this operation is faster than the classical, on-premise way we have of doing things, which is a SQL Server sequential process, which is starting with importing the computers, importing the file evidences and the installer, recognizing the file and install evidences. All of this is not so parallelized today. What we are going to do moving forward is keep the way of importing data that we have today on-premise, but cloud customers will take advantage of the more modern technologies on importing computers and recognizing applications. This data will be computed, in the, I would say, current technology, modern technology, and will be, passed to ITAM, which is a very simple step that will start calculating license consumption, showing the links to contracts and so on. So the data will be the same in ITAM as it is in FlexNet Manager, but the steps to get the data will be different. The users as well, we have a microservice that integrates Active Directory users for SaaS Manager, for ITAM. and for IT visibility. So the idea that one day importing users will be a single data pipeline which will feed the data for the various parts of Flexera One. It doesn't mean that FlexNet Manager on-premise will not be able to import users. We still connect to Active Directory, but performance would be better, and eventually some normalization rules that you can set a more sophisticated way will evolve a little bit while on-premise will keep the current approach. Same thing on business services. There is a notion of business service mapping in CCO, in the cloud optimization part of Flexera. This business service mapping will take data from ITAM, will take data from IT visibility, and will be able, for instance, to compute the total cost of ownership of an HR service, which uses an Azure instance, which uses, let's say, an on-premise Oracle database, and which uses, let's say, an application server. All the data will be aggregated, and from, when I was talking about cross-platform and cross-domain navigation, from an Oracle database that consumes X processor cores, we will be able to zoom into the details of the details into IT visibility. Oh yes, this is a 19.2.3 version with an end of support of this date. Or we will be able to take one step back, actually, and see which business service this Oracle instance is participating to. So what I mean is that, this is not value we take away from on-premise. There was never any TCO calculation for business services. But this is accelerated value that we'll get in ITAM, given the fact that ITAM is in a platform which opens to more capability. The platform-wise features that we have already today, policy engine, can use the ITAM REST APIs to send an email or create a notification. We have reporting across processes, the Microsoft Vendor Workspace, or the text dashboard I was talking about. So Flexera One, in the end, will evolve in directions that on-premise will not take. Not that we are going to stop investing in the core of FlexNet Manager, which is managing contract, purchase, licenses, consumption, and optimization, and giving the best reporting on it, the 3 hubs I was talking about. But there will be probably new technologies for reporting, new technologies for normalization that will, I would say, be natively available to Flexera One customers, and that will not fit into the, I would say, the platform of FlexNet Manager that will evolve functionally, but technologically will not evolve as fast. So that was a little bit what I wanted to say. And just to close on that, you see these hubs that we are creating now. 3 hubs are coming. SaaS Manager has its Salesforce cockpit. The components and the data details are the reports that we have created over years. The hubs are aggregating the data and have a mechanism to historize the data to get trends and provide information. And this data is actually can be queried by the Flexera One technology reporting, which is cross-domain. And this Flexera One technology reporting will, for instance, query for the SAM optimizations on Microsoft, and will mix if there is, it's not yet, we don't have yet a technology optimization hub, but if one day we have a technology optimization hub, it will query FlexNet for the Microsoft optimization that we see on SQL Server, Windows Server, and the potential optimization. And it will mix the data with the SaaS or the cloud optimization on Azure. So the data is fabricated and computed locally, rolled up, and available through REST APIs to the overarching reporting. Okay, so that's what I wanted to finish with. Thanks for your time. And sorry, I've been a little bit over time. Hopefully, if you could not see everything, you will see the recording. I thank you for attending this session, and talk to you next month. Goodbye.